Car's 90% painted. Who wants to see some close-ups? Well, after the last video, you had to know that I was a beginner and I was just learning to get the paint gun set up and a whole bunch of other stuff, technique, whole 9 yards. So I got the paint gun set up correctly and started spraying. So let me walk you through the next part that I did after that last video. Trunk lid. You can tell there's quite a bit of orange peel in here. My technique is where I really had to improve. You can see across here, there's a couple spots where I got it on so thick that it almost ran. And the orange peel is kind of heavy on the trunk lid. But this is fixable. This will wet sand down and then we'll buff it out, polish it out. Now the rest of the car, not too bad. I mean, you can see that there is some orange peel in here, right? But it's not horrible. And I may start off just trying to polish it out. I may not even try and wet sand this. I mean, from a few feet back, it looks really good. You get up close, you can tell there's still a bit of a texture to it. Now I made 3 good overlapping passes, and I got plenty of paint in all these areas, so I know that when I go to polish, I'm not going to burn through. I'm still going to take my time. I'm still, another new skill to learn. The roof did pretty good. A couple of dry spot there. I don't know if you can pick that up in the camera. Yeah, there you go. But this will all polish out nice. Car's like I said, 90% done. Engine bay needs to be done yet. Fenders are not bolted on. That's because we got to do the hood. And then I'm going to get the hood on, take the fenders off because they're only temporarily on there. We'll put a few things on the firewall, bolt the fenders in so that way all these bolts are in place, and then we'll tape it off and then we'll paint the entire engine compartment so everything is painted one shot. A lot of people have asked me what kind of spray gun am I using, what's the setup, and how's it working out for me. Well, you probably Googled around on YouTube, whatever, for cheap Harbor Freight paint guns. Well, that's kind of what I have here. I bought a set off of Amazon of 3 guns, and they're made by Astro. I imagine the same ones you buy at Harbor Freight, the cheap ones. They all look the same. They're maybe different colors. But this is the one that I had used previously for the primer, and it's got a 1.8 millimeter tip, larger opening for the thicker primer. Came with a detail gun, which I don't know if I'm going to use. It's got a 1.0 tip, and this is the one I've been using for the paint. It's got a 1.4 millimeter tip. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a good regulator, pressure regulator. I've been using these little filters. They're disposable. You can get them almost anywhere. They just screw on in between your regulator and your airline. It's good water protection, dust protection, oil protection right at the gun to make sure that you're not getting any contaminants right into your paint. And I've not had any solvent pop or fish eyes, knock on wood, as of yet. So these have really been helping a lot, especially if you're not sure the quality of your air coming out of your compressor. Those are great. So how do I set the gun up? Well, I'm not going to mess with the settings on this one because I really have it already set up how I want it. So I'll show you on the one I used for the primer because this is clearly not set up right. I know that for a fact. 3 settings. You got your airflow here, you got your fan control, and you got your fluid control. For this gun, for this Harbor Freight gun, for this cheap gun, you want your airflow all the way open. So take the needle so it's almost all the way out, then screw it in just enough so it's in, wide open air going through. Your fluid control, what you want to do is pull this all the way back. That's the needle adjustment until it almost falls out. And if it does, you want to just set it back in, right? Hold the trigger all the way in, then start screwing the needle in until it stops. Right there. And then you have this lock nut, which I tightened up too much, right there. So that's going to give you full fluid when you pull on this, when you get the air. Fan control. You can see it's like a little dial, like it's an arrow, like wider here, narrower down there. So the more you turn it this way, the wider your fan is. This way, the less your fan is. Try wide open first. Dial it back as necessary till you get a nice spray pattern and go from there. That's essentially it. I did change out from these big, massive stainless steel cups to these plastic, smaller, pint-sized, and they're, number one, they're lighter, and I can get into more areas because it's clearly smaller. Now here's something I learned. Now I made some mistakes when I taped this off, and I didn't get enough paint on the inner edge of the door. It's going to be largely covered up, but while I had a little paint in my cup for mixing, a little artist brush, you can actually come back through here, touch all of this up so that it won't be seen at all. And I found this actually works out pretty well. You just take your time, not a big deal. For me, there's going to be a piece of chrome trim that sits across the top of this, so I'm not being terribly perfect about getting the paint on here, just as long as I got some coverage. Like I said, it's going to be largely hidden here, but it'll bother me if I don't get some paint on this, just in case one little sliver is seen between the trim and the door fuzzies that go on a little later on. Well, next time you see the car, we're going to have the hood on, we'll have the fenders bolted on, aligned correctly, and we'll have the engine bay completely painted. That's going to be probably, we'll see how it goes. We have 4 or 5 days before we leave here for Carlisle 2023. I might get it done before then. It's going to be close. Like I said before, I'm not rushing it. I'm almost there. So we'll get her done. Now, one other thing to show you is these filters that we have on the air gun. I use it on this blowgun too. When I'm doing the block sanding, if you're not sure of your air supply, you don't want me blowing dirt, water, oil into your primer while you're doing it, or anything else for that matter. So putting one of these on here when you're doing the body work is definitely going to save you some time later. Huge, huge investment. For pennies. Save you a lot of time and effort. Well, that's it. Smash that like button, and if you like what we're doing here on the channel, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.